Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is July 19th, and welcome to live stream number 30. Just getting up there. It's awesome. If you're watching this, you are watching the recording, as we haven't gotten anybody in the live stream yet, but I'm sure that people will start trickling in a few minutes. My name is Lars Christensen, and thank you so much to joining today's topic, Fusion 360, as always. And we are going to talk about the patterning feature. Yesterday in the live stream, a few people were commenting in there. I kind of like put it up that either we're going to talk about surfaces or we're going to talk about patterning, and a few people in there pumped in that they would like to talk about patterning. So, your wish, your command, my command. But yeah, if you are interested in kind of dictating what the topic is going to be in these live streams, down in the description area, you will find my email address, lars.christensen@autodesk.com, and you're definitely more than welcome to send me an email with any future topics you would like to see with Fusion 360. These live streams are about 15-30 minutes long, kind of like, not too organized. We're just kind of like, doing things as they're coming. I can see we already got a few people in here, 14 people already, and we got Seth in here. Good to see you, Seth. We got Matt, Carlos, Ryan. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time out of your busy day to join here today on this Wednesday. So tomorrow we're gonna talk about surfacing, and I really think you should try to chime in on that one, because I'm gonna kind of like share how I like to work with surfacing, and we're kind of like gonna do a core. I recently did a video series on how to create a mold inside of Fusion 360, and a few people were pointing out that what if the mold was more complex, and that is definitely what we're gonna look at tomorrow. I'm gonna show you how I would attack that. But also, before we get into Fusion 360, because that's really what I want to do, today is not Flashy Wednesday anymore. I thought we should rename it. Why not? Let's call it Awesome Wednesday. And what that means is that on Wednesdays, I try to kind of like highlight a product or a person that I think you should definitely know about. 2 Flashy/Awesome Wednesdays ago, it was Fifth Axis Work Holding. If you have a small CNC machine, like a lot of hobbyists have smaller CNC machine, these fifth axis vices fit really well on that. So that was what that was about. You can look back at the recordings on the live stream. Last week we talked about John Saunders, also NYC CNC, I was corrected, his YouTube channel, and also some of the cool products that he has. Well, today, you can see it on the screen. I got I think it's called the Retro Haas shirt on. Today we're going to talk about Haas. Not so much about the machine tools. Now, I have run a few Haas's in my time, and they make really affordable machines. Not the most accurate high-end CNC machines I've ever worked on, but you get what you paid for, and their CNC machines are definitely good for the price, no doubt in my mind about it. And also, their controllers were always the operators out on the shop floor's favorite. But I don't want to really talk about the machine tool, because what I want to talk about is something that I think is even worth for people who have other type of CNC machines. If you go into the search on YouTube and you search Haas, and when I don't want to talk about Formula One either, F1, though that they have a Danish driver on their Formula One team, yay. But if you go in here and search Haas, you will actually see already here that they are doing a really good job on social media. And I think that this is important, like I said, not just for Haas users, of course for Haas users, but for anyone to go out and actually check out their YouTube channel, because they are actually doing a lot of great things that if you have a CNC machine, you might get some value out looking at these videos. So, for example, how to manually pick up a bore with an indicator. That is not just something that Haas users are using. They're talking about using, different work coordinate system, different cutting cycles on their machines and really doing a great job on showing things that even if you don't have a Haas, even if you have another type of machine tools, you can definitely benefit for, many times it's just like somebody is bringing up a topic, how to use, a specific M code to be able to have your machine go fast around a corner or more precise around a corner. And that's the things that many times makes you being like, let me check my manual on my machine for that. So I definitely have a ton of respect for what Haas does on the social media in regards to kind of like, well, I guess what I'm kind of trying to do here too, adding some more values out there. So if you have another type of CNC machine, I definitely think you should check out what they're doing over there. You might find that helpful. So that is Awesome Wednesday. I definitely think that Haas should get a thumbs up for what they do out there to try to educate people about different functions. All right, enough of all this. Let's talk about Fusion 360. Let's get in. And today we're going to talk about the patterning feature. And thank you to Stefan for being the one who kind of like brought this topic up that he wanted to see this. So let's jump into Fusion 360 here. Close this down. Don't need that anymore. Yeah, I really I can see in here that we got a question about the audio. Looks like the audio is good in Minnesota. What is good? Yeah, might just be some internet connection. It looks here, my stream health looks good from YouTube, but sorry if there's any issues. Maybe watch the recording later on. So, talking about the patterning feature inside of Fusion 360. I'm going to give you a couple of different examples on in here and try to do my best on kind of showing you things here. So, first of all, I kind of like just laid this out. When should you use patterning? Well, you should patterning when you're lazy, and I like to be lazy when it comes to CAD and CAM. You can really use patterning when you have a series of different openings and you kind of like want to send that down the line. So what I have here is I just have a plate. I just extruded up a plate, and then I sketched a rectangle that I blast right through the center. Nothing fancy. And I added some inside fillets on it. I'll zoom in a little bit. And then I added a chamfer on top of that just to do something different than a fillet. And then you will see here that I patterned it all the way down in different instances. Now I kind of giggle a little bit when I model this up because I always do the same mistake when I'm doing this kind of things, and that is you start from a corner like this, and then you patterning it out, and then you never know how many instances you can fit in there, and you end up with not having the same distance from one edge to another edge. And actually, if I look on the top of it here, you will also see that there's definitely not the same distance from down here that there is up here. What you really should do if you're trying to lay something out like this is you should draw the first one either maybe up on the edge here, so you're going at least symmetrical around or in the center or something. But whatever. Let's just delete this linear pattern here and redo it so we can talk a little bit about the different commands that is in there. Gone. All right. So there's two different places you can do patterns inside of Fusion 360. One is actually in the sketch area, and we're going to come back to that in a second when we're kind of like bringing up Stefan's top example. And then down in the create, down here you have patterns. And there's three different types of patterns inside of Fusion. There's rectangular, circular, and pattern on a path. And I'm going to show you all of them here today. So I'm going to select the rectangular pattern right in here. And anytime you're working with menus inside of Fusion 360, the easiest thing is start from the top and kind of work your way down. So you have different options in here. You can select faces, bodies, features, and components. And if you watch the last two live streams, then in this week you will be more familiar with the difference between bodies and components. My favorite when I'm in here is to select features if I can. And if you select features, what that means is what I want to pattern here is this the hole I cut through the radius in the corners and the chamfer. So if I select features as the one, I can select them right down here in the tree. And that's actually my kind of favorite if I can do that, because that just, you know, helps me a little bit. Now I'm going to show faces later in a few seconds, but if I selected faces instead, then I have to go in here and select, select the different faces, right? And again, I'm talking about being lazy here. So features is my preferred, if I can get away with it. And I'm going to select these different ones here. Now then, the next one you have down here is direction. So if you click on that, you can actually select different things. You can select origin, axes, but I always just select an edge on the part here. And as soon as you do that, you will get this little dialog coming up, and you will get arrows. And I always pull in the direction of I want it to go, because that will tell me right out of the bat if I got to type in minus or plus. So in this case here, plus will go this way, will be the wrong way. So I'm going to go minus. Now the next thing you should be aware of down here is there is two different options. There is extend or spacing. Now spacing is not the spacing between the parts. It is from one edge of part to the next one. So in our case here would be from this edge right up here to where the next one starts. I normally do spacing versus extend will give you the whole part. So in here I am gonna go minus, I don't know, maybe an inch, and you can kind of see the preview of them here. Then I can control how many also. So let's just put in like 8 here, and we can zoom out and we can see that 8 will fit in here. Now then there's this suppress button in here, and that refers to that little check mark. You can kind of see that there is in here in the center. If I turn that off, it goes off. What is this suppress? Well, it would let us eliminate certain numbers out of our pattern here. Now it's still going to show you 8, but we just removed those, we suppressed those components. Next, we can actually also go in another direction. You will see we have another arrow over here. So I can pull out here, and now you will see that a whole new slew of parts appears, and I can control that distance over here between those, and I can add, you know, how many I think can fit in here, and I can continue to suppress with that checkbox up there. I can continue to suppress certain features in here. That could be nice if we had like a cutout in the center of this one. We could suppress those pieces out that maybe was interfering if we had like a hole in the center of this plate. Lastly, down here you will see that there is an option in here to do 3 different compute options. There's optimize, identical, and adjust. And I am not gonna say that I have don't take me to court for this, but you can search on it on Google, and you can find your different settings. But what it pretty much comes down to is that optimized is great if you have a lot. So think like a grate for like a sink or something that will have a bunch of different holes in it. Optimized will do the best result. However, so all of this is algorithms, right, that is running in the background on how Fusion is going to calculate all this. So identical, it will literally take the first one, it will make it identical, where the last one adjust, it will actually recalculate each instance. And this is one that probably can take the longest to calculate, because what it does, if I leave it on adjust and I hit OK, then it will actually, when it's recalculating down here, it will actually solve each one individually in here to make sure that it is the best. So I would say adjust should probably be your default. And I think that, it really depends on what kind of like result you have. So I always do adjust, and then honestly, I have actually never seen it fail. But if you do see it fail, then might go in and play with those 3 different options. So like I said, optimized is the best one if you have a ton of holes or a ton of patterns. The identical one is kind of like in the middle in solving time, where we'll just kind of like take the identical one and flip it over. What could be an issue if you, for example, now here we are patterning around a nice flat surface, but I mean you could be patterning around from all different kinds of faces with different curves on and stuff like that. So just be aware of that inside of the function in here. Let me go in and edit it again. That you have these different compute options. But it's just, I guess, really the development team giving us more tools for this instead of just picking one, and then if there was a fail, then you're kind of screwed. This way here, you have some different options. All right. So that is kind of like the rectangular patterning in its own little world here. And again, you can always go in, right click and hit edit form. And inside of here, if you have that suppress open, you can always go in and uncheck certain components. If there is something, a hole or something in the way of that would interfere with that. I should probably take the last 2 here, but I think you get the idea that can be super handy. All right, let's look at another model here. I revolved this part up here. And let's pattern this little slot. But I always, as you know, I like to show how I got about this. So what I did was I sketched up a sketch. Let's go ahead and look at this. And this is just really just I sketched up this line with some tangent arcs. Then I used the offset command to give it some thickness. I connected the 2 ends. And I actually drew it up right on the origin here. So I just created a line 1 inch over that I'm then revolving around. And that reminds me, as I was doing this, I was placing a dimension, D for dimension. I was placing a dimension from this to this line here, because I thought that I needed to fully define the sketch. I had to place a dimension here. Now when I clicked on that, I got this, adding this dimension will over-constrain the sketch. Choose OK to create a driven dimension. And somebody pointed out that I should really explain that. So I thought, hey, why not doing that today? An extra little bonus, I guess. So whenever you get warnings come up like this, it doesn't mean that things are broken, that, Fusion is going to explode on you. I mean, only if it starts counting down, man, from 10, 9, 8, you will see me diving under the desk. Anything like this is actually information. So what does it means? Well, we have talked about before about dimensioning and over-constraining and using all these constraints and stuff. Look back at the playlist for live streams. So over-constrain means that this sketch already have all the different dimensions it needs and constraints to be solved. And by adding this dimension, it will be created as a driven dimension. That is perfectly fine. What it is, you will see that when the dimension is placed, that it's just going to show you here as with brackets around it. And that's really all it's doing. This dimension is not driving anything. It's almost just for your reference. And that can actually be kind of nice, because if I decided to go in and sometimes you maybe want to keep an eye out for something. So if I go in here and change this dimension to 2 inches, you will see that my reference dimension gets changed too. It doesn't do anything. It just lets me kind of like keep an eye on things. So use these driven dimensions as, if there was a certain dimension you had to keep an eye on for spacing or something, you can use that. All right. So I revolved that around using the Revolve command. That Revolve command is sitting up right here. And then I just sketched up one slot on a plane. Actually, if you look, the sketch is actually sitting right on center. So I drew it right on the center here, and then I just cut it right through the part, if you're wondering how I got that one on there. Okay, Let's talk about patterning. So we could go in and place another oval here further down. So we could actually go in and use the rectangular patterns that we just did for this. And again, I could select a feature because I have it down here, right? So I can just select that feature, that cutout, and then I gotta select a direction to go in. And in this case here, you will see that I sketched that profile over here, but I can select that axis right here, and that will give me a direction just like we saw before. I always use the arrows to find out where I'm going, and I'm going in minus, but I only actually want a total. So when the quantity is total of amounts, not how many patterns, but the total. So I want to end up with 2, and I'll place this one minus 0.625 maybe down here, and then we have that pattern right there. Now we could go in and use the circular pattern to place the rest. So if I go and select circular patterns, I can again select features. That is again my preference. I can select the first cutout. I can select the pattern. That's the second one. And now it's looking for an axis. But our axes down here are actually wrong. Well, we don't have to be an axis. You can actually select faces, or you can select an edge, and that will work just as fine. Again, you will see that we can actually control if we wanted to just go full all the way around. If we want to control an angle, we can also do the suppress, and we can also bump up the amount of these we want in here. So I don't know, 15 maybe. And again, you get the compute option in here. Hit OK, and now we just created these. So one part, one cutout, one slot converted into multiple in here. So that is kind of the pattern in a nutshell with the rectangular and with the circular. The last thing I'm going to jump in here and show you is I'm going to talk a little bit about Stefan's question. So Stefan, like other people, took the option and went down the description area and found my email address and said, "Hey Lars, I'm trying to do kind of like a dust collector for my router, and I need all these holes drawn in it, and I don't really want to pattern, or I don't really want to draw them all individually. Could that be a topic for a live stream?" So here we are. This is my interpretation of Stefan's dust collector, but it's just me sketching something similar. Well, what Stefan's talking about is he started to drawing up these circles. What is where, like when you're doing a dust collector for a router, there is kind of like these brushes that goes all the way around. He's going to put the holes in there. But of course, if he wants these holes all the way around here, it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the neck to do that, right? So patterning would be a good solution. Now, like I said before, there is inside of sketching, there is circular and rectangular patterns, and they actually work pretty much like the other ones does. If I, for example, hit the rectangular pattern, I can select my object, for example, this circle, and you will now see that I get pretty much same options here. I don't get a compute, but I get the different quantities and length, and I can go in different directions and things like that. But what I actually want to do with these is I actually want to use the pattern on a path, and that is not in sketches. So we're just going to do it as a feature instead. So actually what I will do is I will literally delete the one of the holes out of here, and then let's just go in and hit Q and project these things in here, but leave one hole in here. Give this a thickness. So here we have one hole. Now if we go in and we do patterning, and we do patterning on a path, now I actually cannot select features now because the feature is that one feature I just did here. But here I would select faces. select faces in here, and then I could go ahead and select the path, and that's going to be this path right here. Now I do get a warning about some inputs here because it doesn't have any distances or anything in here right now. So I'm going to do a distance here, and I remember that from the drawing it's a 1/2 inch distance, and then I could put in some kind of a quantity. Let's just put in 50 right now in here, so we can see we have the right now the distance type is set to extend. Like I said before, I like spacing. As soon as I do that, and I change that again back to a 1/2 inch, we should see that now these are going around here. Now look at how they start from the inside and they switch around and kind of does a weird pattern here. That has to do with orientation. So there is an identical and there's a path direction. Let me just show it in path direction. Click on that one, and now you will see that they all look better. And actually I need some more. I think 61 before, and I hit OK. And that is what I want to end up with here. I'm going to come back to that setting in a second. But that is how to answer Stefan's question. That is how I would do that. So I would do the edit feature. I would do the edit feature. I would do the path option. Now I gotta go and check what it's actually called. I would use the pattern on path option. Sorry, Stefan. And I would use that to actually pattern all those holes around. Now let's just talk about the pattern direction, because I think actually it would be easier to show what happens here if I go in and do something else. Let's just go in here and change our, let's delete that one. Let's go back into the sketch, and let's actually create a rectangle. I think will show a little bit better what that function does. Then I think it will make a lot more sense. Let me just create a sketch here. Let's go in and edit this feature, and select this, and let's fill in the round here. So now instead of a round, I actually have a rectangular here. Let's go ahead and do the same pattern path, but I had to do the round one to show Stefan what his solution was. Select the 4 faces again, and I'm going to select the path here, and I like to do spacing, and let's do the spacing again to 0.5, and let's just do 25 maybe. Okay, so here you will see what the difference is between identical. If I hit OK, see what identical does is that it will follow the path, but it keeps the rectangle in the same direction in here. Versus if you go in and edit feature, and we go in and we do path direction, that was what I did. And then you will see that now it is going to again follow the path, but now it's actually going to rotate these rectangles around to follow the path. So when we looked before on Stefan's example with the circles, what it actually did is it rotated each circle individually and kind of like came around like that. Now I'm coming up on so again, it's just kind of like 2 different types of two different functions within that. So none of them is wrong. It's just you probably want both options. So that's pretty cool that they do that. I'm coming up on the end here, but I just wanted to show you. This is the example we used yesterday with the align and joint command, that you can also pattern bodies. So could be nice for people to know too, right? And components, by the way. So you can do that too. So I could go in here and select this one body, and I could again select the direction. And again, when I do rectangular, I normally just select an add in the direction that I wanted, and you can now go out and create multiple bodies. Again, the spacing and the suppress function, all those things are the same as they were before. And one thing I wanted to show is that when I use it in here, it actually creates multiple singular bodies, what means that I can actually go over here and I can actually start modifying one of them. So if I go in here and hit Q, I can actually cut a hole through one and it will not affect the other ones. Okay, guys, I hope that this was helpful. I hope this was a good way to kind of like go through the pattern feature. So it definitely has, it's a great tool if you have multiple ones and you kind of like want to lay them out. I want to thank Stefan for sending me his example, and I hope that he have a chance to watch this. If not, he's not in the live stream. You see, we have like 58 people in here. I hope that he catches the recording. We just hit the 30-minute. So I want to wrap this up. Again, if you're watching the recording, I really appreciate it. If you like what you see, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. If you don't, hey, do be honest, man. Hit the thumbs down. That's okay. Not going to hurt my feelings too much. That's why I have a drink sometimes at night. This was, again, Awesome Wednesday. So, my shout out to Haas for what they do on their social media. Even if you don't have a Haas, in case you joined late for this live stream, even if you don't have a Haas, go ahead and check out their YouTube channel, because they do a lot of things that even if, you had a Metsura or something else, that might just spike your brain and think, I wonder how my machine is handling that function, and that could definitely assist you in that. Just taking a quick look in here in the chat, I can see we got people everywhere. We got people from Virginia. My buddy Bryce in here. Bryce, thank you so much for taking the time. As always, all know Bryce from the What's New. So I'm going to do what I normally do. I'm going to end the broadcast, and I'm going to jump into the live stream and just say hi to everybody. Again, thank you so much for joining. Tomorrow, I'm going to do some pretty cool surfacing, I think. At least I want to share with you how I would deal with, if you get a complex model and you kind of like got to maybe create a core or a cavity for like injection mold. I'm going to show you how I go about that and how Fusion handles that pretty well. So, until the next time, thank you so much for taking the time. Have an awesome day.